The rain fell quietly over downtown Los Angeles that night, thin streaks gliding down the windows of the Cecil Hotel, a building that stood like a shadow from another century. From the street, the Cecil looked ordinary, just another old hotel with chipped paint and flickering neon lights. But inside, the air was heavy, like the walls remembered too much. For decades, the Cecil had been known for its darkness. People whispered about murders, suicides, and strange events that never made sense. Serial killers had stayed here. Broken souls had died here. The hotel didn't just house tragedy, it seemed to attract it. In February 2013, Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, checked in. She was traveling across California on her own, a journey she shared online through photos and blog posts filled with excitement. She wrote about bookstores, coffee shops, and the people she met along the way. Her words were full of life. But something began to shift. In her final posts, her tone grew scattered, her words uncertain, like a fog settling in. And at the Cecil, that fog only thickened. Elisa was last seen on January 31st, the night she was supposed to check out, but she never did. When her parents didn't hear from her, they called the police. Search teams went room by room, floor by floor. No trace, no witnesses. It was as if she had simply vanished inside the walls of the hotel. Then came the elevator video. It was released on February 14th, 2 weeks after she disappeared. The footage would become one of the most chilling and viral videos in internet history. The security camera shows Elisa stepping into the elevator wearing a red jacket. She presses several buttons, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, and waits. The door doesn't close. She peeks out into the hallway, quickly hides back inside, and presses herself into the corner. Her body language screams fear, like she's hiding from someone. Then, she steps out again. Her movements are strange, disjointed. Her arms wave slowly, her hands twist in the air, as if she's trying to communicate with someone unseen. She leans out, looks around, steps back in, then out again. The elevator door never closes. It just stays open, waiting. And then, she walks away, disappearing down the hall to the left. The door closes, and the elevator finally moves. When police released the footage, the internet erupted. Millions watched it in disbelief. Some said she was being stalked. Others thought she was high or having a breakdown. But many saw something else, something darker. They said she looked like she was being controlled or playing the elevator game, an urban legend said to open a portal to another dimension. As wild as that sounded, the Cecil Hotel's reputation made it easy to believe. For years, guests had reported hearing voices, footsteps in empty hallways, doors opening on their own. And now, a girl had vanished inside it, her final moments captured on tape that defied explanation. Detectives studied every frame, every pixel. They followed every lead, but none made sense. No one saw her leave the hotel. No one saw her in the lobby, on the stairs, or outside. It was as if Elisa Lam had stepped into that elevator and crossed into something else. For days, investigators searched, but the Cecil Hotel was massive. 19 floors, endless hallways, and a dark history that made even the police uneasy. And yet somewhere within its walls, Elisa was still there, waiting to be found. They didn't know it yet, but the answer was floating above them, in the cold silence of the rooftop water tanks. 2 weeks had passed since Elisa Lam vanished. Posters of her face hung across Los Angeles, her smiling photo, her name, and a number to call if anyone had seen her. But as each day slipped by, hope began to fade. Inside the Cecil Hotel, guests carried on with their stays. Tourists checked in, backpackers lounged in the lobby, and life continued, as if nothing had happened. But something felt off. A chill lingered in the air, a heaviness that pressed down on the building like it was holding a secret too big to speak. Then came the complaints. Guests started reporting strange issues with the water. Some said the pressure was low, showers barely trickled. Others said the taste was metallic like rust. A few whispered that the water looked dark, almost black at times. It was enough for hotel staff to take notice. On the morning of February 19th, maintenance worker Santiago Lopez climbed up to the rooftop to inspect the 4 large water tanks that supplied the building. It wasn't an easy place to reach. The door to the roof was locked and alarmed, and the tanks were massive metal cylinders, each several feet tall. To look inside, Santiago had to climb a ladder and lift one of the heavy lids. When he did, he froze. Floating just beneath the surface of the water was the body of Elisa Lam, naked, motionless. Her clothes, the same red jacket and black shorts from the elevator footage, were floating beside her. Santiago stumbled back, his voice breaking as he called for help. Within minutes, sirens filled the air. Police swarmed the rooftop, sealing off the area. Guests were evacuated. Reporters gathered outside. The Cecil Hotel, once a forgotten relic, was now the center of global horror. As the story spread, disbelief turned to outrage. For nearly 3 weeks, guests had been drinking, brushing their teeth, and showering with the same water that held Elisa Lam's decomposing body. It was too horrifying to comprehend. The police investigation intensified, but nothing made sense. How had she gotten into the tank? The hatch was heavy, the ladder was tall, and the roof door was locked with an alarm, one that never went off. The coroner's report only deepened the mystery. Elisa's body showed no signs of trauma, no bruises, no struggle. Toxicology tests found no drugs or alcohol, only trace amounts of medication for her bipolar disorder. There was no evidence of foul play, the official cause of death, accidental drowning. But no one believed that. Online, theories spread like wildfire. Some said she was being followed. Others believed she was possessed, that something from the hotel's dark past had claimed her. A few even linked it to the elevator game, saying she never made it back from the other world she'd opened. Investigators combed through the hotel's security cameras again, but there was still no footage of her going to the roof. No sign of how she got past the alarms. No fingerprints on the tank lids, just nothing. And the Cecil Hotel, with its walls steeped in decades of blood, death, and despair, sat silent. It had seen tragedy before. Serial killers like Richard Ramirez once lived there. Guests had leapt from its windows. Entire rooms had gone untouched for years. Now, Elisa Lam's story became part of its legend. For many, she wasn't just another victim. She was a symbol, a haunting reminder of how something innocent could turn so terrifying, so fast. Even after her body was removed, guests claimed the water still looked off. Some said they could still smell something strange in their rooms. Others swore they heard footsteps on the roof at night. The Cecil had always been a dark place, but now it had claimed one more soul, and the world demanded answers. Even after Elisa Lam's body was removed, the Cecil Hotel never felt the same again. The rooftop was sealed off, the water tanks drained, and the room she stayed in was permanently closed. But the darkness, it stayed. News of her death spread across the world. For weeks, the internet was consumed by theories, forums, podcasts, YouTube channels. Everyone wanted to know what really happened to Elisa Lam. But the truth refused to come out. The official story said she drowned by accident, that her death was a tragic result of mental illness, disorientation, and misadventure. But people couldn't accept that. Too many things didn't add up. How did she reach the roof without triggering the alarm? How did she open and close the tank lid by herself? And why, in the elevator footage, did the door stay open for nearly 2 minutes, far longer than they should have? Detectives couldn't answer those questions. Neither could scientists or the online investigators who spent years dissecting every second of the footage. Some believed Elisa was being followed, that someone else was in that hallway, just out of frame. Others were convinced the hotel itself was alive, feeding on its own reputation for misery. The Cecil Hotel had always drawn darkness. It opened in the 1920s with grand dreams of being a luxury destination. But the Great Depression changed everything. The neighborhood decayed, crime exploded, and the Cecil became a refuge for the lost, a place where addiction, poverty, and violence mixed behind thin walls. In the decades that followed, the hotel became infamous. Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, stayed there during his killing spree. Jack Unterweger, another serial killer, checked in years later, killing women nearby while journalists interviewed him inside the hotel. Dozens of suicides were recorded in its history. Some guests jumped from the upper floors, others never checked out at all. So when Elisa Lam vanished, people said it wasn't a coincidence. The hotel's history, its energy, its atmosphere, everything pointed towards something unnatural. Even investigators admitted the Cecil was different. Officers described strange electrical malfunctions during their searches. Lights flickered, doors creaked open on their own. One officer even said he felt like someone was watching him the entire time. Then came the eerie coincidences. A tuberculosis outbreak broke out near the hotel right after Elisa's death, and the test used to detect it was called LAM Elisa. The name mirrored hers exactly. To many, it was an impossible coincidence, another piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. Years later, the building was rebranded as Stay on Main, an attempt to erase its dark reputation. But no matter what name it carried, the shadow of the Cecil remained. Guests still reported strange noises, elevators that opened on their own, water that ran cold even when the handle was turned to hot. And sometimes, people claimed they saw her, a girl in a red jacket, stepping into the elevator, pressing the buttons, waiting. Elisa Lam's story became one of the most studied, discussed, and feared mysteries of the modern era. Netflix, journalists, and investigators all revisited her case, but none could explain what really happened in those final moments. To this day, her death remains officially an accident. But for those who've seen the video, who've watched her movements, her fear, her confusion, the word accident doesn't feel right. The truth about Elisa Lam may never be known. Maybe she was just a young woman struggling far from home. Or maybe she stumbled into something the rest of us can't understand. Something that watches from the corners of places like the Cecil Hotel, waiting for its next story. And every time the elevator doors slide shut, every time the buttons light up one by one, someone, somewhere, remembers Elisa Lam, the girl who walked into the elevator and never came back.